everyone, and welcome back to the CLSR. And I'm your host, the counselor. Just want to let you people know you can get a hold of me at TheCounselor That's the counselor at gmail.com. Now, I want to say to all my wonderful listeners out there, let's continue to spread the word like the wise old bird and put your money where your mouth is so we can handle this biz. Take care. Welcome back to the CLSR, and I'm your host, the counselor. Today we're going to be talking about some of these indigenous individuals who've been killed by the police, and actually, this is a rather serious issue that we have going on in Canada here, where I can't even believe the numbers of indigenous people that are being killed by police. And I'm going just back to 2020 and trying to move forward. And see, instead of just coming up with vague statements, I want you to hear a couple things and tell me in your mind, when you think about it, is there really an issue going on? For example, we're going to talk about Aisha Hudson in 2020, April 8th. Hudson, an indigenous teenager, was shot by police following a police chase in response to a liquor store robbing. She was pronounced dead in the hospital. And then again, we have in 2020, April 9th, Jason Collins in Manitoba. Collins, an indigenous father of three, was shot and killed by a police officer following a call regarding a domestic dispute. And then again, we have Patrick Everett in British Columbia in April 20th. Patrick of Babine Lake First Nations died in custody the day of his arrest after being treated in hospital for first wounds inflicted by police dogs and then for a seizure. And then we have May 5th, Natanine Abraham, Nunavut, RCMP officer. Natanine, an indigenous man, was shot and killed by police. The incident was streamed live by his partner. And then we have June 2020, June 4th, Chantel Moore in New Brunswick. Moore, a member of the Tayukiat First Nation, was shot and killed when police were called to a wellness check. After reviewing the report, Quebec's Bureau of Independent Investigation and available evidence, they determined that the officers' actions were reasonable. Then you have June 13th, Levi Rodney in New Brunswick. Rodney, a 48-year-old Micmac man, was shot and killed by New Brunswick RCMP officers who responded to a call about an unwanted man at a private residence. Levi was invited to a pastor's house for a barbecue and was initially welcome. However, at some point, Levi was no longer welcome. Now, of course, I could go on, but that was just a couple months in 2020 that I was just talking about. And we're in 2021, and you can see in those 2 months alone what's been going down. Now, there have been many more shootings, but I'm just going to tell you those ones that are fact. These are ones I looked up and I went, wow, what is going on in this country? And I mean, we have to take a look at what's going on. Maybe you don't want to. Maybe the ones in this, and it's clear, the SIU is not, they're clearing all police officers of all wrongdoing. When did it become okay to shoot women? And when has it been okay to use this deadly force? If someone has a knife, do we not have other means? And I'm not saying I haven't been in a situation and I wouldn't know, but what I'm saying is it's just alarming what is going on. And in addition to this First Nation residential school, I'm talking about what's going on now. I'm talking about this killing, and it's sad. It's disgraceful. And I'm sorry, there's been investigations, and every time it seems like they're all clear. There's no accountability. It's ridiculous. There's no accountability. It's just like the numbers are being recorded, and it's just astronomical what's going on. And I can clearly say there's an issue going on in our criminal justice system, where I think we don't take into consideration half of what we should. I think it's violence meets violence. If in half of these cases, okay, there's no excuses for it. But somehow these SIU investigations or these committees that look into it, they just come up with, they clear every officer in every case. And I'm saying, what? You're going into people's houses and shooting, and you're encountering people? Like, this is our response? And I think this starts with the training. Shoot to kill, clearly. It's shoot to kill. It's not shoot to think about it, it's shoot to kill. And I think there are other ways. Are we supposed to be an advanced society? Well, I'll tell you, I'm disturbed. I'm concerned and I'm disturbed. And the word needs to get out that there's some treachery going on that needs to be addressed. And I think when the First Nation indigenous people are speaking their word and we're not hearing them, we should be ashamed of ourselves. We should be looking at the system that we have in place. We don't have alternatives. And I mean, just today alone, I was looking in June 18, 2021, watching the news today. And I mean, when it comes to indigenous, I'm talking about black folks who are dealing with this. It's just ridiculous. Okay, so this is an example. Today alone, I was watching on the news just for a moment, and I saw a black man get on the bus. And when he got on the bus, this bus driver accused him of not paying the fee. And this is all on camera, mind you, because there's a camera on the bus. Black man paid the fee. However, this bus driver called in the police. The police came in and abused this man, pushed him into a seat, hit him in his neck to push him back. He said, hey, I paid my fare. But this officer was so aggressive and so abusive, and it's on camera. And did you know what? This case has been pending for months, if not over a year. And it's all on camera. And this officer's pushing him into a seat, hitting him in his neck to push him back, cursing at him. And he's saying, hey, I paid my fare. But this aggression is what's going on. And you know what? The sad part, the truth is, they cleared this officer completely, and it was all on camera. They found no issue with it. This officer was over aggressive on his brother over a fare. So why do we not have rights where people can keep their hands off us? What happened to the law? Well, I'm going to tell you. The law has some serious issues with it. And the Crown Attorney cleared this officer. Said there was no issue there. Because you're allowed to do that to black people, clearly. You're allowed to put your hands on them. You're allowed to hit them in their neck over what, $2? The point is that this is being justified in the courts, and I'm tired of seeing this abuse going on, and I'm tired of brothers being abused. I'm sick and tired of indigenous people being abused, and I'm tired of this court system that does not represent us getting away with this. And whatever is in place, we have to change it. We don't have political representation. These lawyers out here are afraid of the police. Oh, as they should. I guess I'd be afraid too. I had a professor friend of mine told me when she complained, even on they're all part of these unions, these police unions, where a lot of the police, not all the police, but it's a system. All right, it's systemic, where they're a powerful entity. You don't say nothing against the police because you know what? There's going to be ramifications. You understand? You don't do that. If you're a lawyer, see, like I'm going to tell you, see, the counselor knows. And the reason why the counselor knows, because I'm going to disappoint you. Okay, I'm not just another brother talking about it. I worked in the courts. I worked in the school system. I'm an educated brother, MBA, teacher, child and youth worker, human service counselor. I worked in the roughest, toughest neighborhoods. I can tell you, I can speak on it because I know about it. Now, the problem is it doesn't matter if I know about it because no one's doing anything about it. It doesn't matter if I talk to the courts. They're corrupt. I can tell you some things that will really blow your mind and you don't even want to know because this is not really a democracy. Do you understand? A democracy demands freedom. We don't have a democracy here in Canada. We have a hypocrisy. That's what we got. We got to keep your mouth quiet. The only difference between Canada and the United States is that in the United States it's out there for everyone to see. Canada hides it. They'll throw it on the news when it's really serious, and then they'll still cover it up. They'll still say it's not that serious. Or they'll put it in the court, and this is what disgusts me. They'll put it in the court, all right, and then they'll charge an officer. Oh, yeah, they'll charge him. But then once it gets out of the public eye, they'll let him off. They'll give him bail. Doesn't matter. Okay? They took a brother's eye over a year and a half ago. Okay? Devontae, I think it was, took his eye and let this officer go. Oh, they charged him, but immediately put him on bail. See, this is what I'm talking about. There needs to be some real representation. We don't have it. We have an NDP representation. He's fighting on his own. We don't have enough people sitting. Where are all these cultures that need to stand up and represent? Where's the accountability? There's none. There's no accountability. It's sad, but it's true. And so what can you do when you know that you have institutional, systemic, not just racism, oppression, and abuse? Oh, come on. People in power are taking that power and just using it at their will and keeping the rest oppressed, because you better not do anything, or you better not say. And see, when you talk about the courts, I'm going to tell you about the courts because I worked in them. And I'm going to tell you what I'm seeing, what is really happening. I know, had family members experience and say, I see what they do. See, they know. They look at you in a certain way, and then they feel that they can play these games. See, the lawyers that we have, even here in Canada, yeah, there's a handful of good lawyers, but they got to play ball with these crown attorneys because they got to work with them all the time. The real true justice, good luck. It's hard to find. It really is. It's really sad. You know, it's really sad. And when you think about the system that's in place, think about the police. If you're a police officer and you're working in the courts, even with the Crown, now the Crown represents the police, right? Which is supposed to represent the people. See, if you have a situation where you have to really get your needs met, you either got to spend multi-million dollars to even get heard properly, okay? Or you're on legal assistance. And if you're on legal assistance, it's hard to get great representation. That's the truth. And even then, when you're on legal assistance, you got to have some money because legal aid doesn't cover a lot of things. Doesn't cover bear review. And half of this is a real joke, I'm going to tell you. Half of these justice of the peace aren't lawyers. So they're putting brothers away, putting all these people away, and they don't even have law degrees. That's the biggest crime in Canada. It's a corrupt system. It's a business. It's not a criminal justice system. It's injustice. That's what it should be called. Think about the truth. If your lawyer's working with the crowd, right? Think about it. You know what I mean? You want them, oh, they could go as tough as they want to go. But believe me, okay, they go tough on minorities, visible minorities. They go tough on indigenous. They go tough. I couldn't even believe what I saw in some of these courtrooms going on. Don't say anything. Oh, that lawyer's going to speak. You don't have, no. And the judges will tell you, we don't want to hear from you. Go get some legal representation. You're not going to get hurt. Oh, you got duty counsel, they'll speak for you. Meanwhile, duty counsel is overwhelmed with all these different cases. But you can't, like I said, when you're in the police system, okay, you are operating with a systemic mind frame. And you have your biases out there. And nobody challenges that. And when they do challenge, I got to correct. People do challenge. But it goes nowhere. The SIU has no backbone. What is it really about? There's no backbone. Come on, the things that are going on, it doesn't take a fool to see. All right? It's ridiculous what's going on. You see, my concern is that this system's not going to change. You give them $1 billion. That's what we do. We finance even the Toronto police. We give them $1 billion, and then people say, oh, defund the police. See, the problem is when we use the term defund the police, people think, Oh, take the money, all the money away from the police. See, this is what the average person is thinking. Oh, are you going to take all the money away from the police? And then we're gonna have crime running rampant, and then the police aren't going to be having any money. They're going to be underfunded. Well, no, let's take this into perspective. When we mean defund the police, we don't mean take all the money away from the police. What we mean is that, you see, this system where you see a knife, you pull a gun, you shoot, is a very generic way of thinking. It's a way they're taught, and it ends up having a lot of people killed. And a lot of these people who are killed have mental health issues. And see, we don't take that into consideration. See, so it's a action, and then there's a reaction. Very simplistic. That's how it's done in training. So when we talk about defund the police, we're basically saying, look, wait a minute. So you get $1 billion, okay, and you use that to patrol the streets, and I'll tell you right now, half the streets that should be patrolled aren't being patrolled. Half the communities that need community centers and employment don't have it. Why? Because a lot of it has money allocated just to enforcement. So when we talk about defunding the police, we're really talking about, hey, why don't we take $100 million, and instead of having training, okay, on this one-way procedure that we have, why don't we use that to create jobs in communities and have officers who are trained in dealing with people who have mental health? Why don't we use some of the funding and set that up? Why don't we take some of that funding and use that towards developing communities? Because a lot of the crimes that happen in this country are from people who are underserved communities, who have mental health issues, or who are dealing with dire situations, unfortunately. And the truth is the truth. Most of these young people out there ain't going to go and rob anybody if they got enough. Oh, you're going to say, oh, there's always going to be drugs out there. There's always going to be something. Well, let me just tell you something. Who gets to call that? Isn't this country funding itself off of drugs now? Wasn't it like Bill Blair, head of the police department? Wasn't he the guy who was the police chief in Toronto, Ontario? Now he's backing these major, if not, he's got stocks. I'm pretty sure he's related. I'm gonna say that this was a police chief. He's now in politics. He's a politician, big politician. I'm sure one of these companies that he endorses or is involved with sells weed to the people. And over the years, hundreds of people, black people, for smoking weed, having weed, selling weed, thrown in jail, lives ruined. But now, no, because see, now the man says it's okay. Because we got to make money off it. See, that stuff you were doing, brother, selling that little dime of weed to those people, that was illegal. You're a crook. You're a criminal. You're going to jail. You got a record for the rest of your life. But guess what? We need to make money off of it now. So guess what now? We're going to make money off of you people. And now, we don't go to jail, though, not like you did, because we're in power. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we profit and you stay poor, and we're going to make sure that we get into it. Now, Bill Blair's not the police chief anymore. That was back then. He's in politics. No, not involved, so I take him out of the equation. He's not involved in that anymore. Now he's a professional man. I'm just trying to tell you what is happening, because we talk about the micro level of what's going on, and now we got to talk about the macro level, the beneficiaries of the same crime that was being accused less than 3 years ago. Those people were hurt. He hasn't been a police chief for years. Okay? There's been a couple after him. But I'm just trying to say that heavy enforcement on drugs back then. Same drugs. But now look at who are the drug dealers? All these rich people who are taking advantage of the system. But hey, listen, let's not cry about that. That just happens to be the truth, right? And see, now those little guys who are making a little bit, who aren't as educated, who can't go to half these schools, who don't qualify, who are dropping out of school, who don't get hired for various reasons based on whatever. When they can't, so they do a little bit of selling in their neighborhood to pay for little things because guess what? We don't qualify. It's no excuse. There's going to be a segment that did that. But see, that was bad. We looked at it as terrible. We pointed the finger at those people. Now we're those people. We're using those same drugs to fund our hospitals, right? To pay for our schools. But guess what? It's okay when we do it, but it's not okay when you do it. See, that's kind of funny to me. It's real though, right? See, even now when you really look at it, see, those ones that were operating in communities, believe it or not, I'm going to give you two sides. The truth is look, was everybody selling weed bad? No. Was it a culture thing? Yes. I mean, if you're really educated and you know anything about weed, the United States has had a patent on marijuana for years. They hold a patent on it. So what I'm saying is they decided to outlaw it. They hold a patent on it. And I could go all into what's going on in the United States, but it's happening here. We're building super jails here in Canada. We are. We're paying for them, but we're building super jails. See, the moment you start building super jails, that means you have intent to fill those super jails, or why build them? They have to be financed somehow. So we pick a brother up on the highway for speeding and we throw him in jail. Right? You understand? For these things, we do all kinds of things. Right? We know what's going on. But see, those communities, like, if you even live in this major metropolitan area, you could say, look at, let's be honest, there's a handful of areas where there's a lot of real violence. But we're not looking to change that, because if we really try to change it, break it up, make it better, we're going to lose jobs. So when we talk about defunding the police, we want the police. Are all police officers bad, first of all? No, they're not. But it's systemic. Okay, it's just like business, how it operates on big business. They operate a certain way. My thing is when you defund the police, I'm saying take some of those funds and use them to build our youth. Okay? To develop our communities. All right? Kids are poorer than they were in the last 20 years. Why is that? I mean, it's sad to say, even around the world, there's global south, there's more poverty in Africa. It's 60% more poverty now than there was 20 years ago. Why? Because the same system is being applied. Now here we are in this country here, and my concern is that this indigenous issue is a black issue, it's a mental health issue, there's a lot going on, but when I'm talking about defunding the police, I'm saying we have to get beyond the action-reaction phase. Because there's a lot of people getting killed, and it's no excuse for it, but there's no accountability and responsibility in government, in the criminal justice system. There just is none, and it's unfortunate. And when you're building super jails, right, that means even if you don't have the people to fill it, they're going to get filled. Right? We're going to put people in there. And it's sad because you know what? You want to look inside these jails and go, what's really going on? What are the statistics? Who's sitting in these jails? And you probably wouldn't be if you're educated and you just look online and you go to Statistics Canada and you go to these Wikipedia and just get online and, do some searches. You'll find out what's going on in these countries. You'll find out who's sitting in half of these jails, overrepresented. What do I mean? Well, in the general population, blacks might make, 4% of the whole country, maybe more. But in the prison population, they're making like 8%. Like, I'm just giving you a comparison. It's got to be 2 to 3 times sitting in jail, or with criminal records, or who's dropped out. Right? So there's a lot going on here. And my concern is that we only have one thing going on in this country: lock them up. You should see the system that they got in these prisons. It's ridiculous. The books are old. They're not educated. These people, a lot of them who were grabbed for one thing or the other, no. They don't even have, if they're doing wrong, they have no way to do better when they get out, because they're going to get out, a lot of them. But what they get out to, and this is sad, and I'm going to tell you right now, if a young man's charged, okay, charged. Because really, if you're telling the truth, it's guilty until proven innocent. And I know you've heard it before, but I'm going to tell you right now. If a young man's charged, okay, he's going to be charged. And even if he's let out on bail, it shows up. So if he's innocent or not, when he applies for a job, it shows up that he's got criminal charges. Okay? So that young man can't get a decent job. So even if you find him innocent in a year's time, after his bail or whatever, or charges are withdrawn, you screwed him up. Because you gave him the guilty before the innocent, and that is what is going on. You are guilty before proven innocent, and that is the truth. And don't let anybody tell you different, because if they do, you're lying. You can't tell me that officers or nobody is guilty of nothing. Of course, we have a system in here that protects itself. It's a business. The courts are turned into a business. That's all they are. They're a business. They're a business. There's no real representation. It's a business. You know, even when you go to duty counsel and you try to talk to them on behalf of your family, oh, I don't want to talk to you. I want to talk. No, they try to no. Duty counsel is supposed to be for the people. But half of them want to play games and speak in silence with them. They don't get it. You know, families coming together to support each other, they want to, I only want to speak to you and want to separate you from them so that you can't hear what they're trying to lay out. Because you just might say, hey, wait, something's wrong with that. That's not how we're supposed to operate. We have rights. So if you go through your lawyers and your lawyers aren't doing... See, this is another issue, too, that I got to tell you about. See, lawyers are telling you what to plead. They're telling you what. See, I'm going to tell you the truth if you really want to hear about it. And I know because I got people who I know who are close to me that have to deal with it. Lawyers are basically setting your case for you before you even get to trial. People feel helpless because the game is so tight, that court game. The game is so tight, and I'll tell you how tight it is. So when you got a lawyer, okay, the lawyer's going to lay out. And I'm telling you, lawyers are getting so bold, even in 2021. They're stating in text, when they communicate with you, you might as well plead, you're guilty if you did this. They're using the word guilty in text to say you're guilty because of this, this, and this. You haven't gone to the judge, justice of the peace, gone to the court, but before you say, hey, listen, I want you to present my case to the crown so that you can discuss. Well, based on this, you're guilty. And that's a lawyer telling you that before you even get to the courthouse. So what fighting chance do you really have? Plead guilty. The sad thing is these crown attorneys out here don't have no understanding and empathy for our communities. We need to revamp this criminal justice. They want to throw women in prison, threatening to throw them in prison for being stopped by the side of the road, getting tickets, and being accused of DUI. They want to throw them in prison, but then they can't let police officers sit in prison when they take somebody's eye. They're doing some reckless things out there. They're doing reckless things, I got to tell you. Reckless things. Officers are taking people, here's an example, they're taking young people an hour and a half away. OPP are taking young people, all right, an hour and a half away. They're arresting them here in the major GTA and taking them an hour and a half away and locking them up, and nobody's saying anything about it. The judges are just putting up with the garbage. Guilty until proven innocent. They're taking the young black people, they're arresting them an hour and a half away, and they're dropping them. And you know why they're doing it? I'll tell you why they're doing it. Because the court system in the major cities are full. So they say, it's okay, we can violate your... We can take you on the run. Shut up. We'll take you on the run. We'll take you on a run, an hour and a half run, sitting in our car. And you know what? When they do the disclosure, they lie and they say, it's this street. Easy to prove, but it doesn't really matter that you can prove that they're lying, because they're trying to force you to plead guilty before the court comes. They're lying straight up, talking about places that they picked you up when you know damn well it's not possible when you look at the timeline. See, a lot of people ain't using this. A lot of people can't even explain it. When they get their disclosure and they look at what's really happening to our people, okay, if you're not taking up the time to look at it. But even if you do, my point is that these lawyers are passing judgment before they even negotiate and really put in the case. They're not putting in the effort. They're not putting in the work. It's almost like a lot of them don't believe in the system. They just follow it along. And the Crown attorneys are so aggressive in the sense that lock them up. I don't care if you're 18, 19, lock them up. Throw away the key, put them in a box, take them out of society. And I'm not just talking about all the gangsters out there. I'm talking about the ones who are young, who are locked up, and then when they get out, they don't have really much to go to. They don't have no proper programs in to help them. Okay? Lock them up for a few years. Keep them out of society. That's what we do. We don't have any proper systems. Right? We don't. So there's a lot of things that are going on. I can see it. Many people won't be able to see it. And the reason why they won't see it because they don't got the time, that nobody's listening, and things are just the way they are. Now see, many of you might say to yourself, well, counselor, the way you're going on, there's something wrong there. You got a problem. You act like everything's bad. When I see this stuff going on, I have to say, things are bad. They're really bad. And when I see people, oh, you know my next podcast is going to be on what happened. I keep talking about what happened in London, Ontario. They're talking about some man running over a family who came here. And I got to get with this podcast because I'm going to tell you more. I'm seeing things. And I'm not just reporting on the news about what the weather's like. I got to see what's going on around me. And I want the word to get out there because you need to know, number one, what is to be learned by this conversation today. Number one, you need to know that, look, when you have to deal with your case, you get together with your family. And when you have to deal with these lawyers, you remember they work for you. Sure, they're educated, but you stick with your family. Yes, you can listen to their advice. If you don't have a good lawyer, this is the thing. When we get a lawyer, we think we got to stick with them. When they don't see your way, go and get another lawyer. Is it easy to do? Not necessarily, but sometimes you have to. Okay, because some of them have their agendas where they're too busy, overoccupied. If they're not speaking your language, get some help. All right, and record things so that you record what's being said. All right, get an advocate. Make sure you don't just go in there alone. Don't even let your kids go in there alone. Even if they're adults, you make sure you have an advocate for them and you get there. Number two, well, what can we do about this? Well, I don't really want to talk about it at this podcast because a lot of it's just talk. I'm going to talk about it next time, but I want you to filter this in so that you know what's really going on here in this country of the land and the freedom democracy. Oh, yeah, a lot of things are coming up. Okay, a lot of eyes are opening up, and only the reason why half of this is happening is because this system has been in place for such a long time. And there just needs to be some changes. There's some rearranges, some defunding, not defunding, it's called defunding when it should be called refunding. All right? Making the police not just enforcers, okay? Making the people who protect you, not neglect you. And when I'm seeing it, and the thing about it is we got technology and it doesn't even really matter. Technology is just running rampant. It really is. Technology is here, but we need to know that even when you see it on the screen, it isn't what you think it is. Not according to the people who are coming to the scene to investigate what's going on. Observing, completing reports, and then coming out with these findings of innocent, and all officers are innocent of it. I'm not going after officers. I'm going after ones that are not doing what's supposed to be doing, or the ones that could do better. All right, I am saying that this system needs some change. Not just, oh, you show up and you're right, we're wrong. And here's the report to tell you that you were justified in your actions. I'm just saying not everybody's innocent. Just like there's criminals out there who are innocent. There are people out there who are guilty and there are people who are innocent. But what I'm saying is there's people dying out there. There's people being abused out there. And there's just no accountability. I'm saying things have to change. If you're not going to take this seriously, what is it really about? If we're just going to lock them up and throw away the key, let them on the street and hope for the best, no, it's not going to work. And it hasn't worked, and it's not working. Now, maybe many of you are saying, Counselor, you seem to be getting a little bit worked up. Well, you know what? I think it's time that we get a little bit worked up in the sense that we open our eyes and realize that it's not even a surprise anymore. People are actually seeing with this digital technology right in front of their faces. And then it's so contradictory. Like when I saw that report, even today, I saw it plain as day. Officer coming in there, pushing the brother, hitting him in his neck, pushing him back into the seat, accusing him. Like, first of all, you're an enforcer. You're already judge and jury right there. The moment you start putting your hands on and throwing your hands up, pushing them into the seat, hitting them in their neck and doing all that, you've already judged them. You've already made your decision. And I'm saying, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. You don't need to do that. What about the rights? Nobody was being aggressive with you. What about the rights? I seen this on the video. It was clear as day. But unfortunately, it wasn't clear enough because the report came out that the officer's not responsible for anything. But see, first it's a push. Then, this is a thing. It's not just this incident. It's when you see that happening, okay? When you see that bus incident happening, you have to say to yourself, well, wait a minute. We're allowing this officer who just did this to go out there and do it again and again and again and again. So obviously he clearly didn't feel that this brother had rights. So he just did it again. And whatever, he gets cleared again. And that's what is so disheartening. It's so upsetting. The truth is, here in Canada, we don't really have real advocates. We don't. We don't have real advocates. And I'm going to give you something that you really don't want to hear. But the truth is, we need to have better representation. We need to have some real resolution. We need to clear up this murky past. And I'm not just talking about this indigenous past. What about blacks? The black community. We've had some terrible things happening there, right? We've had some communities moved, right? Moved. We've had some wonderful things in the black community, but we've had some terrible atrocities going on. We haven't even addressed those yet. Well, maybe we're going to have to do that. Because you know what? It's time. It's time that we start thinking about some real change and not talking about it anymore. And see, this is also about educating people. Getting them to look at things. Stop watching that television. Stop hypnotizing yourself. That little vampire show, those little zombie movies that you're watching, it ain't real. And if you want your life to change and you want this world to change for the better, turn off the TV. There's enough going on in the real world that could wake you up to the reality of what's going on and you could actually do something about it. All of y'all sitting up there watching these TV shows, right? Like The Handmaid's Tale, right? These vampire shows. All these popular shows that are going on out there, we're living in the reality, and the only reason why we're doing it because we like living in that bubble world. We like living in that, oh, it could happen to you, but it better not happen to me. But eventually it will happen to you if you don't wake up, right? If you don't turn off that TV and turn on that mind, and that's what's happening to this young generation. They're plugged in, Jack. That's why the apples are the apples and the Amazons are the Amazons. The few control the many, right? That's what's happening. You're not awake. You're still sleeping. You don't want to see what's up. You don't feel you can do anything. Of course you don't. You don't know what to do. You're just following the system. I mean, if you really look at the laws and the legislation that's going on, they only really happen when enough people come together and complain. You get a little bit of change, but even that's fine, right? But the thing is if you go ahead and look at some of your policies and the procedures that have occurred in your workplace even, and the laws in your community. Look how they've changed. Go back. If there's been no changes in the last 10, 15, 20 years, there's no progress being made. All right? It doesn't take a lot. You see, the counselor is trying to wake you up. And that's what I'm going to do. That's my mission. So you got to listen. And see, I want you to be like the wise old bird and spread the word. I'm not just talking about Canada. I'm talking about worldwide. I'm talking about this is happening in one of the most developed, supposedly the wealthiest countries in the world. You take a plane over here, you land at Pearson Airport, and you go downtown Toronto, you go to the Queen Street, all right, you see the homeless kids living on the street. You look at the prison, they won't even let you go through there because they don't want you to see what they're doing. They don't want you to see the 20-year-olds, the 18-year-olds getting put in these prisons with these adult men that have been in there for 15, 20 years, getting their damn brains beaten out. They don't want you to see that. They don't want you to see that you're not. They don't want the public to see it because the public doesn't care as long as you lock them up. They don't see that our youth are being messed up. Young brothers are being messed up. Even if they're messing up, they go in there and they get more messed up because these young brothers are being abused behind bars. But nobody gives a damn. They don't care. And that's the problem. That's why you should be upset. You should be saying, no, what is going on? There's got to be some changes. And that's why the counselor's rhyming, because the truth is the truth. There's something going on with our youth. We're throwing them away. We're packing them in these super jails. And we're saying, guess what? You're guilty. And you'll never change. And there's no hope for you. You're just going to be a number. And that's what I'm worried about. And I write what I write and I say what I say because I mean it. All right? So when I talk about progress, I'm saying there is no progress. There's stagnation when there's no change. When you see it in front of your eyes on the video, you know what it is. I don't need to tell you. But some of you are so into that television, into those movies, when you see the reality, it's like, that's them, not me. You can't see. You're hypnotized. Television is a third form of hypnosis. Wake up, people. Right? How do you want to smoke those drugs? Because you know what? You don't want to see the reality of it. Maybe you're in a system. You're in a cycle. Maybe the FOMO is real. Maybe you're in debt because you're following the system because you haven't woken up. Because that's what makes the system work. You're living in an economy that's built on debt. You wonder where you're going to get a job because when you apply for a job, it's online. And nobody responds online. Right? Everybody's fooling you. Half of these online employment agencies are employing you through some indoctrination. What they're doing is they're telling you, put in your resume. Meanwhile, it's advertising. They're getting money off your advertising. There ain't no job at the end of that rainbow. Right? Shoot, all these job fairs out there they talk about, ain't nobody hiring. Right? Not your kind. Not my kind. Right? So we got to find and make a way. We got to realize what's going on today. Real work and real responsibility and real change and real progress is getting harder to find. And this pandemic has showed us that. It showed us that you could be working and then boom, it could be all taken away. And you know what's left? Big box. Big box stores that are supplying thousands. And you small little businesses out there, you ain't got no sense. You see what happened? No, you're crying why the government didn't give you your little welfare. You wasn't prepared. And the reason why you wasn't prepared is you wasn't prepared because you know why? You thought you could just make your profit. You're all working in isolation. Well, these small businesses, that's another thing. We got to talk about that. But the small businesses working in isolation, they got their little wake-up call, right? They got it. And see, then they're transferring A lot of you are going, oh my goodness, now we got we're gonna do our little independent businesses and make our millions of dollars off of Shopify. Good, that's probably the next thing. But there's a problem. There's a problem. You could be operating your little online business, but guess what? You only operate if we say so, right? And when you do operate, I'm monitoring everything about your operation. So if I don't like what you're selling in your store, if I don't like the prices, I'm going to adjust it because I'm one entity that controls everything. Who's really controlling things now? Is it the government? Is it these big businesses? Because the Amazons and the Apple, they're doing all this thing right now. They can't wait for regulation because then you can't really get in the game. And now they get to censor you. So if your product that you're selling, oh, there's good things with selling, but what I'm saying is they have so much control. So you small businesses want to go online. But then when they start charging you extra fees, that third party fee, you got to make more money. Okay, you think you're making, oh, I'm making all kinds of money online. That's great. But this is just the beginning. See, people don't think about that. They just follow, oh, I got to get a job online. You were working and operate half these restaurants, half these independent businesses. These small businesses used to make up 2/3, if not more, of Canada's GDP or business revenue. Now, because of the pandemic, look what has happened. We got a wake-up call. People just begging to get, oh, we want you workers back. We want the workers back to build the community back. Let's see the government keep throwing money at them. But you didn't learn your lesson. Man, there's so much to go on about. You know, the counselor's got a lot on his mind, but he wants you to think. He wants you to put down the drink and think. And we got to talk about that drink. Because that drink is stopping you from that think. Think about it. Well, listen, the counselors had a good session, and I want you to know, if you're for the people, you say what's real. You say how you feel, but you say what's real, and you back it up with the details and the information and the facts. And the facts don't lie. Well, some of them don't lie. Depends on the source, of course. So I'm going to say, I want you to be like the wise old bird and spread the word. This is news you could use if you choose. All right. Take care, people.